Hi, my name is Spencer, and today I want to show you how I took this piece of inspiration and turned it into this app icon, all thanks to a $20 ChatGPT subscription and some of the worst Photoshop skills you've ever seen. When I start out creating an app, I don't like to spend too much time thinking about the design of the app or the icon. I would much rather get a proof of concept going, and as it evolves, I find that the design makes itself present, and so does the icon. When I started to design the icon for this app, the first thing I thought of was back in the day when I was a kid, I used to have these Sony voice recorders. I used to keep it in the center console of my car, and anytime I had a thought, I would pull it out and record it. But so I figured that that voice recorder would be a great source of inspiration for an app icon. They have a black version of the voice recorder, but they also have this gray version, which I kind of like a little better. I like the two-tone look of the screen, and then of course the border. That's a thick bezel right there. And then of course you have the actual silver unit of the body. So I took this voice recorder image, saved it to my desktop, and then I pulled up ChatGPT. And ChatGPT is usually not something I use for icons, but considering that Sora 2 just came out, I thought maybe I'll just try it again. So what I did was I fed this image to ChatGPT, and I used probably one of the simplest prompts I've used with ChatGPT. Use this as inspiration to make an iOS video recording app icon. It took about 5 minutes to create it. Honestly, this is probably the best icon I've ever made with ChatGPT with such little effort. And here it is. It's got the same two-tone look that I was talking about earlier. It was even so perfect that it copied the actual screen. If you look here, it's got 07 for take 7, and then it's got the date of 2013-111, which I just find so funny. That was absolutely perfect. I was even really surprised that it copied the Sony logo, which is in the exact font of the Sony logo. Of course, I don't want to use the actual Sony logo in my app. So that's why I said I love the flat, love the colors, remove the Sony logo, please. And this is the funny part, because even though ChatGPT is who created this, they gave me a content policy over this request. So I just took their example that they said, please provide a new prompt or describe the design differently. And so I said a generic digital recorder inspired app icon without any branding, copied and pasted that, and boom, it gave me another content policy warning. So at that point, I figured this is probably as good as it's gonna get. So I went ahead and downloaded this ChatGPT image. Next up, I took it into Pixelmator. And for those who don't know, Pixelmator Pro is a poor man's version of Photoshop. The best thing about it was a one-time purchase, but unfortunately last year it got purchased by Apple, so it's probably going to be killed or absorbed into the Apple ecosystem. But until then, I continue to use it. So the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to remove the Sony logo. So I just took paint and painted over the Sony logo. I then wanted to expand the outside of this white border to actually be the entire app. And then I wanted to replace where the Sony logo was with some kind of text. And my initial thought was to do voice. So I put voice up there. And I liked that, but I didn't love it. So I took that out and tried memos. I thought memos was going to be a much better. I'm trying to think about doing a notes to self, but I couldn't really figure that out. So I just moved on. The key here is just make a version 1. You can spend all day, all night doing this, but the key is if you're just tinkering with stuff, you're never going to have a proof of concept. You're never going to have an app. You're never going to have something that people can test flight. You want to get to a point where you have a test flight and you have a working app so that you can use it in your daily life and so that others can use it. And the last thing you want to do is spend 10 hours on an icon and then realize, oh, this is really, really bad. It doesn't work with liquid glass or whatever it might be. So I just try and find something that I like and I just move on. So version 2 of this, I actually decided that the two-tone was a little bit too distracting when it was shrunk down to an app icon. And I came up with this. It's basically just a crop in of the screen. And then of course I removed menu and folder, but that's version 2. And then version 3, I just changed the outside border color. And we have this right here. Next, I took it and loaded it into Apple's Icon Composer, which is a new app that Apple came out with iOS 26. As you can see, here's the first icon that I made. It's got the two-tone. I mean, this one's mainly made by ChatGPT. But personally, I thought it was just a little bit too busy. You can put on these little different backgrounds here. Didn't like it too much. So the simpler icon, which we can see here, I find it catches your eye a little bit better. There's still stuff I want to change. Like, of course, I want to move these two guys down a little bit, or maybe I might even iterate more so that focused on the record button and less on the actual device. I personally don't love the liquid glass effect. Number one, because it doesn't work too well. That's really designed for if you're going to layer the actual image. So if I were to pull out the record button and the enter button and the screen and make a layer, it would work much better. But since I'm not going to do that, I always just turn off the liquid glass effect. The next thing you know about Icon Composer is down in the bottom right hand corner, you can change the different modes. So if you have a regular icon and you have a dark icon, and if you have a tinted icon, you can see how it's all going to work together here. You can also click here on options and you'll be able to actually add a color tint to your icon to see how it works. As you can see with my logo, tint does not work well. And in my opinion, we don't really have a light icon. So that'll be something I work on in the future. But never forget the goal. The goal here is to create an icon that you like, that's inspiring to you, that users can recognize. And there you have it, my work in progress voice memos icon. If you want to test out the app while I'm building it, you're welcome to scan this QR code, or you can also check out the link in the description. And if you want to see the next video in the series of creating apps with AI with tools such as Claude Code or Factory AI, you can check it out here. Thanks so much for watching.